What would you do if the storm at your door carried not just danger, but a chance at love you swore you'd never feel again? The dust storm came without warning, as they often did in late summer along the Colorado frontier. Ethan Cole had just finished mending a fence post when he saw the brown wall rolling across the prairie, swallowing the horizon in a roar of grit and wind. He cursed under his breath, rushing the horses into the barn before the storm buried them all. Through the swirl of sand, he almost missed the figure stumbling toward his ranch house. A woman bent nearly double against the gale, clutching something close to her chest. Her bonnet was gone, her dark hair whipped around her face like angry snakes. "Papa!" Little Emily's voice carried from the porch. "Someone's coming. Get inside, Em!" Ethan shouted. But the child was already running, her boots kicking up small whirlwinds of dust. The woman collapsed to her knees, just as Emily reached her. That's when Ethan saw what she carried, a bundle of blankets, moving and crying with the thin wail of an infant. "Mama!" Emily exclaimed, flinging her arms around the stranger's neck. "Mama came back." The words hit Ethan like a hammer to the chest. His daughter hadn't spoken of her mother in months, not since Margaret had been laid to rest beneath the cottonwood tree behind the house. The fever had taken her just after Emily's 5th birthday, along with the son she'd been trying to bring into the world. "Emily, no," he said gently, reaching them in 3 long strides. "That's not your mama, sweetheart." The woman lifted her head, eyes green and startling even through the dust. Exhaustion etched every line of her face, but pride kept her spine straight. "Please," she rasped, "just until the storm passes. My boy, he needs shelter." Ethan didn't hesitate. Whatever bitterness lived in him, he wasn't the kind of man to turn away a woman and child in need. He scooped Emily up with one arm, helped the woman to her feet with the other. "Come on. Let's get you inside, before this storm buries us all." The ranch house was small but solid, 2 rooms and a kitchen built from timber and adobe. Margaret had tried to make it homely with curtains and rugs, but since her death, those touches only reminded Ethan of absence. The woman sank into a chair, still clutching the baby. Ethan saw she was younger than he'd thought, maybe 26, 27. Her calico dress was worn but clean, her shoes cracked from miles of walking. The baby couldn't have been more than 4 months old, a shock of dark hair and strong lungs proving his health despite their ordeal. Ethan poured water from the pitcher. "Here, drink." She did, gratefully. Emily climbed onto the bench beside her, patting her arm with the solemn comfort of a child. "Don't cry. Pa fixes everything, if only that were true." "What's your name?" Emily asked. The woman managed a tired smile. "Clara. Clara Monroe. And this is Daniel." "Like the Lion Man in the Bible," Emily exclaimed. "Mama used to tell me that story." Clara's eyes flicked to Ethan, soft with understanding. "I'm sorry for your loss," she whispered. He nodded curtly, not trusting himself to answer. "You can't walk to town in this," Ethan said. "Not with a baby. The storm could last all night. I don't want to be trouble." "You already are," he said, but not unkindly. "Might as well be trouble under a roof with food in your belly." Emily clapped her hands. "She can stay in Mama's sewing room, Pa. It's got a bed and everything." Ethan froze. Margaret's sewing room. He hadn't set foot in it since the funeral. But one look at Clara, holding her baby with fierce protectiveness, and he felt the first crack in the wall around his heart. "I suppose," he said slowly, "just until the storm breaks." That night, the house felt different. Clara's soft humming mingled with the wind as she settled Daniel in the sewing room. Emily fell asleep on the rug by the fire, worn out from excitement. For the first time in months, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt waiting. Clara emerged quietly, finding Ethan at the window. "Thank you," she said. "I know what people think, seeing a woman like me, alone with a child and no ring. But you gave us shelter." "I won't forget it." Ethan looked at her. A stranger, yet not. A survivor. Scarred, but strong. "You're under my roof now," he said simply. "That makes you decent folk." She smiled, sad and grateful all at once. "You're a good man," Ethan Cole. "No," he answered. "Just a tired one." Outside, the storm began to die down. Tomorrow would bring clear skies and hard choices. Clara would have to decide her next step, and Ethan would have to guard the fragile hope that flickered in his daughter's eyes. But tonight, for the first time since Margaret's death, his house was full of life again, and Ethan Cole dared to imagine what it might mean if this woman and her child stayed. Morning came bright and clear, as if the storm had scrubbed the whole world clean. Ethan woke to the sound of sizzling bacon and the smell of fresh biscuits, scents that hadn't filled his kitchen since Margaret's passing. For one dizzying moment, he thought she had returned. Then he heard Clara's soft voice singing to her baby, and reality settled back around him. She stood at the stove, Daniel tied to her chest with one of Margaret's old aprons. She'd already fed the chickens. Ethan could see them pecking outside the window. Emily sat at the table, practicing letters on a slate, chattering happily between strokes of chalk. "I hope you don't mind," Clara said when she noticed him watching. "I thought I'd earn our keep for the night." "You didn't have to," he said, though he couldn't deny how good the kitchen smelled. "I wanted to. I've never been one for charity." The meal was simple: biscuits, eggs with wild onions, coffee strong enough to wake the dead. But to Ethan, it felt like a feast. Emily carried on with excitement, planning the day as if Clara would be there forever. "I'll show you where the prairie roses bloom, Miss Clara. And maybe you can help me sew?" Pause, hopeless with a needle. "Emily," Ethan warned, "Miss Clara's moving on once the weather clears. She needs to find work." Emily's face fell. But Clara surprised them both. "Actually, I was wondering if you needed help here. There's mending to do, a garden that needs tending, and harvest coming soon. Maybe I could stay a while." Ethan hesitated. It wasn't wise. People would talk, already had. But when he looked at his daughter's hopeful eyes, he found himself saying, "I can't pay much. Room and board, mostly. Maybe a little come fall." Clara's shoulders sagged with relief. "That's more than fair. Thank you." By the end of the week, she had made herself part of the ranch's rhythm. The house smelled of baking bread and lavender. Linens hung clean in the sun. Emily's laughter rang louder than it had in months. Even Ethan found himself smiling more often, though he tried to hide it. But when he took Clara to town for supplies, the storm of another kind began. Redemption Creek was a small place, with sharp eyes and sharper tongues. Mrs. Abigail Thornton, the banker's wife, spotted them first. She stood outside the mercantile, corseted and watchful, her smile sweet as spoiled syrup. "Why, Mr. Cole," she called. "How nice to see you. And who might this be?" "This is Miss Monroe," Ethan said firmly. "She's helping at the ranch." With her child, Mrs. Thornton's eyes slid to Daniel in Clara's arms. And where might Mr. Monroe be? "There is no Mr. Monroe," Clara said, voice steady. The silence that followed was heavy with judgment. Ethan steered her inside, but the damage was done. Every eye in town followed them. Every whisper trailed after. That evening, as they sat on the porch, Clara rocked Daniel and watched the stars. "I should go," she said quietly. "I won't have Emily hurt by whispers meant for me." "She's not going anywhere," Ethan said gruffly. "People will say things." "They already are." "Let them. I don't care." Clara turned to him then, moonlight catching the fear and longing in her eyes. "But what about you, Ethan? What about your daughter? Can you carry the weight of my reputation too?" He met her gaze without flinching. "You brought life back into this house." My daughter's laughing again. "I sleep through the night for the first time in months. That matters more than any gossip." Quote, her breath caught, and for a moment it seemed the world had narrowed to just the two of them, the night air thick with unspoken promises. But before either could say more, a voice broke the fragile silence. "Well, well." Clara, Monroe, a rider, sat at the edge of the yard, hat tipped back, arrogance in every line of his posture. Ethan's hand went to the rifle by the door. Clara went pale, clutching Daniel tight. Lucas Tate, she whispered. Daniel's father. The man who had promised her marriage, then vanished when he learned of the child. He swung down from his horse, smiling like a man who owned the ground he walked on. Took me some time to find you, darling. Thought you could hide forever. What do you want? Lucas, Clara's voice shook, but her grip on Daniel was fierce. My son, he said smoothly. A boy needs his father. And I intend to take him back. Ethan stepped between them, rifle resting across his arm. His voice was low and dangerous over my dead body. Lucas only smiled wider. Then, maybe that's how it'll be. The wind stilled. The night held its breath. And Clara realized the real storm had only just begun. The next morning, the sun rose over Redemption Creek as if nothing had changed. But inside Ethan Cole's ranch house, the air was thick with dread. Clara hadn't slept. Every creak of the floorboards, every cry from Daniel had her heart racing. Lucas Tate's return was more than a shadow from the past. It was a threat she couldn't outrun. Ethan saddled his horse with clipped, angry motions. I'll ride into town. See what Tate's up to. Clara caught his arm. Be careful, he's clever. He twists words until the truth looks like a lie. Ethan placed his hand over hers. Then, we'll give him no lies to twist. He softened. You're safe here, Clara. I swear it. But safety was fragile on the frontier. By noon, word spread fast. Lucas had gone straight to the sheriff and filed papers with the judge riding circuit. He claimed full custody of Daniel, insisting Clara was unfit. He called her a fallen woman. He accused Ethan of taking advantage of her desperation. The hearing was set for 3 days. Clara's hands shook as she folded laundry on the porch. He'll win. The law favors men. He has money, charm, a silver tongue. Then we changed the story, Ethan said. His voice was rough, but his eyes were steady. Marry me, Clara's breath caught Ethan. Marry me, not for show, not just to fight him, because I don't want you walking out that door, because Emily already calls you family, because His jaw tightened. I need you, Clara's heart pounded. People will say it's rushed, that you only wed me to block his claim. Let them talk. We'll prove them wrong by living the truth. He reached for her hand, calloused fingers warm around hers. Say yes, Clara. Stay. She closed her eyes, torn between fear and longing. When she opened them, Ethan's gray gaze held hers, steady as the mountains. Yes, she whispered. The wedding was small, hurried. Reverend Thomas stood at the front of the church, his words solemn but quick. Tom and Mary Bradley signed as witnesses. Emily clutched Clara's hand proudly while baby Daniel dozed in his sling. I do, Clara said, voice firm despite the stares. I do. Ethan echoed, steady as ever, when Reverend Thomas declared them man and wife. Ethan kissed her gently, a promise rather than possession. For a moment, Clara let herself believe love could bloom from ashes, but Lucas Tate wasn't finished. At the hearing, Judge Harper's face was stone as he listened. Lucas painted himself as a wronged man, abandoned by a faithless woman. He spoke of responsibility, of giving his son a respectable name. He even claimed he'd always intended to return, only to find Clara married to another. Clara's stomach twisted at every lie. Then Ethan spoke. Your Honor, this woman saved my daughter's life. She's built a home with me, with us. She is no fallen woman. She is my wife, and I'll fight anyone who says otherwise. Emily broke free from Mary Bradley's grasp and ran to the front, her small voice ringing through the courtroom. Please don't take my brother. He's ours now. Clara's our mama. She makes biscuits and sings and loves us. Don't let the bad man take him. The room fell silent. Even Judge Harper's stern face softened as Emily's tears streaked down her cheeks. Lucas exploded. She's been coached. This is all a sham. But the sheriff stepped forward. Funny thing, Judge, we've had complaints about Mr. Tate. Drunk fights, unpaid debts, threats. Doesn't sound like a fit father to me. The tide turned. Witnesses spoke of Clara's hard work, of her kindness, of the way she'd carried herself with dignity despite whispers. Margaret Cole's sister, who had traveled from Boston, even wrote a letter praising Clara for bringing joy back into Ethan's house. Finally, Judge Harper's gavel struck custody of Daniel as awarded to Mrs. Clara Cole and her husband, Ethan Cole. Mr. Tate's rights are terminated due to abandonment and unfitness. "Sheriff, see to it that he answers for his other crimes," Lucas's shout of rage echoed as deputies dragged him out. "This isn't over!" But it was. Outside, the townsfolk gathered. Some whispered, others offered quiet congratulations. Emily clung to Clara's skirts. Daniel nestled against her, while Ethan stood tall beside them. "You're ours now," Emily said softly, her voice fierce with childish certainty. "Forever." Clara bent to kiss her hair, tears stinging her eyes. "Forever, sweetheart." That night, in the quiet of their home, Ethan pulled Clara close. The storm had passed, but its fire had forged something stronger than either of them expected. "You stayed," he murmured against her hair. "Nowhere else I'd be," she whispered back. And for the first time in years, Ethan Cole allowed himself to believe in tomorrow, not as a man alone, but as a husband, a father, and part of a family whole again.